So, listening back at this video, I realized I sound kind of miserable, and frankly, I probably will in this video segment too, and I apologize for that. But I hope you can forgive me. And it did make me, unfortunately, a little scatterbrained, so it's maybe not as fluid or easy to understand as I'd like. But hopefully, you'll be able to enjoy it regardless, and hopefully, we'll be able to use this to help, if you're interested in this card game. If not, that's fine. Thank you for your time. Goodbye. Greetings, my noble knights, as I Blaze Templar, and as you can see, this is a little bit different than what we normally do. And that's because, well, frankly, I was a huge fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day. Back in high school, I would actually sit down and play the game with some friends over a table during the lunch hour in the back of the, career resource room. I don't remember what it was called. It's been ages. But we would sit down and play Yu-Gi-Oh! And this was back, during the early GX era, so fusions were just starting to become a big thing. And, so it was an interesting time period to be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I didn't really play it seriously. It was just mostly for fun. And I basically used the same cards over and over again. The people that were at the top of the game had Blackluster Soldier, Chaos Emperor Dragon, the three Egyptian gods, the works. And they kept the anime effects, of course, and that made it incredibly obnoxious. So you'd think I wouldn't care for Yu-Gi-Oh! Because, quite frankly, they cheated a little bit with the monsters. If you summoned a monster and face up attack position, it was automatically destroyed. Stuff like that. And it wasn't just Slifer that would do that. It was basically all four gods, and they had invincibility against spell and trap cards, which they don't, but that's basically how they were played. Understandably, they were kind of busted, as the only way to get rid of an Egyptian god was Man-Eater Bug or something, and that could be Divine Wrath, etc. So it was pretty ridiculous. I didn't win very often, but you know what? I found myself enjoying some of the digital formats of Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot more, where the computer kind of handled all the rulings and you didn't have to, figure out how the chains of cards worked, which those could be incredibly obnoxious, just so much easier to let the computer do it. And so I came back to it during the 5Ds era, and at first it was synchros, these are stupid, and then I started playing them and I found out that I really liked synchro cards. They were a lot of fun. And then they came out with Xyz, and the show was awful. I have opinions on all the seasons of Yu-Gi-Oh! Barring Vrains, I believe, is the newest one. So barring that one, I have a very strong opinion on all the shows. But here's the reason why I'm doing this. It's because this game is incredibly complex, and it can even be a little convoluted. But it is a very fun game if you know how to play. And, well, unfortunately, playing the base game nowadays is very difficult to do, because now you have to worry about pendulums, you have to worry about Xyz, you have to worry about link monsters, you have to worry about synchros, you have to worry about rituals, fusions. You get the idea. It's kind of a lot to take in all at once. So instead of players doing that, one of the things that is done by a lot of people that are teaching Yu-Gi-Oh! Now is either speed duels, which is basically dual links, or going in and just going each generation of Yu-Gi-Oh! So we're actually going to go ahead and do basically that idea. We're going to skip the story, go into user, let's see, Retro OG. This deck I designed specifically for this purpose a while ago, where it's just quite literally designed to kind of teach the basics of the game. Now, flipping a coin is actually pretty common, but rock, paper, scissors is another fair way to do it. Those are probably the two best ways to decide who goes first. And this is actually pretty important, because Okay, so we're going to talk about the starting rules. A deck of cards has to be between 40 and 60. You can't have any more than that. You can't have any less than that. It has to be between that 40 and 60 number. It used to be you could have any size of deck, but then someone brought like a deck of like 800 cards or something like that, and it was impossible to shuffle. It took like an hour and a half or something. So immediately Konami went back and said, you're not able to do that. We're going to keep it between 40 and 60 from here on out. And I think that was understandable. So if you play some of the older games, you can play like with 80 cards or whatever, but that is an older ruling. If that's something you've worked with, that's no longer in play. So anyway, let's get to the actual first or second turn. So first turn players get the advantage of setting up their field first. Second turn players get the advantage of getting the ability to draw a card, which is actually pretty huge, and they also get the ability to attack. First turn players cannot attack. We're going to go ahead and take first turn so you can see the differences. Plus, honestly, going first is usually the best idea anyway, even if you don't get that draw. I'm actually really card greedy, generally speaking. So this hand's actually almost perfect. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and explain. So you can see there's this kind of pink card. This is called a trap card. Now, these are very quick once they're able to be activated. So they're like spell cast 3 or something like that, which basically means they're lightning fast. So we're going to go ahead and set this. Now, on the turn you set this card, you won't be able to actually activate it. That is kind of the downside to trap cards. They're actually pretty slow. Because of that fact, you can't activate them on the turn you set them. But on the next turn, or your opponent's turn, after you've already set it, so like when we go over to the next turn, they'll be able to activate. But anyway, if you look, I probably should just go through the cards first before I talk about faces. So this card here is a spell card. It's kind of got this like bluish border, and it has spell card and then a symbol that looks like a lightning bolt next to the spell up there near the word spell card. That actually means it's a quick play spell. Basically, that means it can act like a trap card. So you can go ahead and set it. Same basic principle. When you set the card, you're not going to be able to activate it until the next turn. But because it's a quick play spell, I'll be able to use it on my opponent's turn if I need to. So that's kind of the two types of cards. You got your spell cards and your trap cards. Spell cards, if you just play them face up right away, you can do that. But in this case, I decided to make it act like a trap card. So, okay, now we're going to talk about how you actually get your monsters on the field. There's two different types of summons there's three different types of summons, I should say, to consider when you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In this kind of basic form. You've got your normal summon, which I'm going to do in a moment. You've got your tribute summon, which I'll probably do a little bit later. And then you've got your special summon. Now, I'm not going to probably do that in this game, as I think I'm running only non-effect monsters. So being able to special summon will be very difficult. But those are the three summon types you're going to have to think about. You can normal summon once per turn. If you do that, that's all your summoning you're going to get, unless you have some special summons. Tribute summons are kind of technically like an upgraded version of normal summoning, but we're going to go ahead and just normal summon right now. Or we're going to use our normal summon. And when you summon a normal summon, you can either set it or summon it. When you summon a monster, it'll go in face-up attack position, which means it's facing your opponent kind of like up, down, this position that they're facing right now. While if you set it, it'll actually go face down and kind of to the side. This means it's in defense position, and so defense position monsters will use their defense stat in battle instead of their attack stat. And as you can see, Aquamador has only 1200 attack but 2000 defense, so it's actually going to be kind of hard to run over. Defense position monsters actually can't destroy opposing monsters when the attacks go on, but if it's destroyed, you don't take damage either. So it's kind of the trade-off there. So Now that we've gone ahead and normal summoned, I can't really do anything else. I've used my normal summon. I've set a couple cards down. My turn is basically done because I can't do anything else for the first turn. So on the next turn, I'll explain the phases of battle. So he's going to go ahead and get his draw phase. Because I have that quick play spell down, it's actually offering to allow me to respond to spell cards that are being used. And, like, for example, I could activate Mystical Space Typhoon to destroy that Pot of Greed, but that's not getting rid of it. It's not nullifying its effect. So that's still going to go through, so we're not going to use it. And he's going to draw his 2 cards. He's summoning Battle Ox. That's actually a pretty decent-ish level 4 monster from the OG at 1700 attack, which kind of common. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and use any traps right now. I could, but I don't need to right now. I'll explain traps if it becomes necessary a little bit later. So he's going to go ahead and declare an attack, and I could chain or respond to that attack by activating a spell or trap, but like I said, I'm not going to do that. I don't need to respond to him. He's just going to attack into my monster with 2,000 defense. So that 1,700 hit a 2,000 defense monster. He takes 300 points of damage, but because I'm in defense position, I can't destroy his monster. So it's going to stay on the field. He's fine. He just lost a few life points. So he's going to go ahead and set. And actually, because he did set a card, I'm going to go ahead and use my quick play spell that I told you about, where it can kind of act like a trap card. And we're going to immediately destroy his card, because he set that. He can't activate it the turn he sets that. So we got rid of a card, which is Gift of the Mystical Elf, trap card. Kind of a waste for Mystical Space Typhoon, but oh well. So I'm going to draw, and I got a new spell card. Now, this one, like I said last time, you can either set the spell card or activate it immediately. We're going to go ahead and just activate it immediately this time. But, right, I probably should have. Instead of getting distracted by the spell card and the pretty pictures, I should have actually talked about the stages of a turn. So, at the beginning of your turn, you draw. That's what the DP stands for, draw phase. Then afterwards, there's a phase called the standby phase. This isn't really that important unless you have effects that activate during the standby phase, or your opponent has something that'll activate during the standby phase. The cards will very specifically say during the standby phase or something similar to that. You can also activate traps and spells that are quick play spells anyway during the standby phase, but it doesn't look like my opponent could, and I don't really have a need to activate any traps during the standby phase either, so we immediately went into main phase 1. This is basically where you're going to do most of your actions in a duel, is during your main phase 1. You're kind of setting up the board for your battle plans, if you will, and in this case, we're going to go ahead and instead of setting our monster, we're just going to go ahead and summon our monster in attack position. So it's going to do the same thing that Battle Ox did, and just be normal summoned. Next turn, we'll be able to talk about Tribute Summon, I believe. But now, if you look, my monster has 2,000 attack and 100 defense. So clearly, having this in attack position is probably the better play. So we're going to go ahead and attack his Battle Ox with our Werewolf. And because we were both in attack position, that means not only did I destroy his monster, but he took the difference between the 2,000 and the 1,700. So, yeah, in this case, worked out well. Now, if he's able to get over my monster with 2,000 defense, it would just destroy it. It's not going to do any piercing damage, or it's not going to do any further damage. That's the pro to being in defense position. So he just sets a card, he's ending his turn. And, okay, so draw phase, we draw our card, then we go into standby, this is actually still during the draw phase because of Heart of the Underdog. My spell card activates, so because I drew a normal monster, the spell card allows me to draw again, so I'll do that. and I drew another normal monster. Just gotta show them, and I get to draw again. And this can actually repeat ad infinitum, or until you run out of cards. So we're going to do that a few times. Heart of the Underdog is pretty good for a kind of a monster mash or vanilla type monster deck, which that's exactly what this is. So, okay, we've gone ahead, we've set a summon, we've normal summoned with a set, we have normal summoned in attack position. Now we're going to talk about tribute summoning. Now, tribute summoning is basically your normal summon, except it costs. You have to tribute a monster to bring out a more powerful monster. Like this Summon Skull has 6 stars. So this level 6 monster would require a tribute. 5 and 6 requires 1 tribute, 7 and 8 requires 2. That's basically all you have to know about tribute summoning. There are some that require 3, but they're kind of rare and not really worth talking about. So 5, 6, 1, 6, or 7, 8 is 2. Basically, that's all you have to know about that. So we're going to go ahead and summon our Summon Skull by tributing Aquamador, and this counts as our normal summon as well. So we did get a more powerful monster out at the cost of a monster. That is the downside to tribute summoning, and in the more modern metagame, tribute summoning really doesn't see much play unless you're talking monarchs. Now, if you notice, I had a 2000 attack, he had a 2000 defense. They're even, so neither one was destroyed. If they were both 2000 attack, they both would go to the graveyard because they were in battle position and attacking each other. But because the defense position monster was equal to the attack position monster, nothing really happened. So, okay, so I should have probably just attacked with Summon Skull, but I didn't, so oh well. We'll just go ahead and destroy it now. We had the attack to get over Aquamador with our Summon Skull, and we will just end our turn now. So let's see what he's gonna do. The AI, unfortunately, in this particular game is kind of stupid, and it does make it a little bit slower than it needs to be. So, okay, draw phase, and since my spell card activates during the draw phase, we're still stuck in that draw phase, and I'm going to go ahead and show him that Archfiend Soldier, get to draw, get a Blue Eyes, get to draw again, fun stuff there. And actually, if you notice, my hand is actually getting pretty big. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're actually overstocked on our hand. You can have up to 6 cards in your hand. If at the end of the turn you have more than 6 cards, you have to discard until you're down to 6. So that is kind of an annoying thing, and because of that, I am not going to continue to draw. Well, I couldn't anyway. I drew into a 7 Tools of the Bandit, which is another trap card, but because of that, not able to do anything with it, unfortunately. So we'll just do our normal summon again. Boom. Archfiend Soldier. I'm not going to activate my trap card. I have no need for it right now. So, gonna destroy his grappler. Gene Warped Werewolf will attack. And we'll attack again. Now, if you notice, I have a bunch more cards than my opponent. Last turn I forgot to even describe the battle phase in the main phase too, which I'll do now. Basically, during battle phase, each of your attack position monsters can attack once per battle, and they have to either attack a monster or they'll attack the opponent directly, where they don't have any monsters defending them, like right now. So instead, they'll attack the life points, and the goal of the game is to reduce the opponent's life points down to 0. So if you can get direct attacks off, that's pretty nice, but keeping the opponent's field clear is also pretty handy too. Anyway, so I did all of my attacks. We're going to go to main phase 2. This basically is another stage where you can continue your kind of setup where you were doing the same thing on main phase 1, but it's a little more limited, mostly because you've already done your attacks. So if you summon a monster afterwards, like say I didn't summon the Archfiend Soldier right now and I decided to summon it now, I wouldn't be able to attack with it this turn. There are advantages to doing that kind of thing, but that's a little bit higher technical play. So he's going to go ahead, get into his main phase. It doesn't look like he has any plays except setting a monster. Understandable. I have kind of a big field advantage at the moment, and he's kind of a difficult spot. So I drew into Mystical Space Typhoon, standby phase. I could activate a card, and I guess I'll go ahead and do so this time, just because I can. And we'll destroy his face down, whatever that is. Turned out to be Mesmeric Control, I believe. Yep. Oh, wow. I can't believe we got that right. So, anyway, remember when I said 7 and 8 stars required 2 tributes? We're going to go ahead and sacrifice 2 monsters to do just that. And we'll get a pretty little cutscene, I guess. Kind of reminds me of the mobile game, honestly. But regardless, we got ourselves a Blue Eyes White Dragon out. Kind of a legendary monster, and in this deck, it's kind of the boss monster, as it is the strongest thing we've got. And it does take 2 tributes, so understandably. So we did our moves in the main phase that we had. It's battle phase, attack. Battle Ox is not going to survive the Summon Skulls attack, and so it's destroyed, and now Blue Eyes White Dragon can just attack directly. And with that, he's actually going to run out of life points, so that will be the end of the game. I didn't really have a need to show off the trap cards, but I hopefully explained that well enough. So, if you have questions about how the basic process goes, where you normal summon, you set, you activate spells and traps, that sort of thing, let me know. And if you enjoyed this video, please let me know as well. Otherwise, I can do something else instead. Either way, I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.